everybody. My name is Herman. I make music. But for the most of my life, oh yeah, by the way, here's the cover. So, for the most of my life, I've been alone. Not in a sad way, perhaps, but in a way that forced me to do everything I love doing and to learn everything I love doing myself. So, from a very, very young age, I found shelter in art. It became some place where I can run away from all the people, from all the bad events that were happening outside of me, and where I could express myself without needing people's understanding or appreciation. But creating alone also means judging alone. And when you judge alone, you start asking yourself questions. So, how do you know if your art is good? How do you know if people will understand what you're trying to say? And most of all, how do you even know if it's even finished? But more on that later. Some time ago, specifically 3 years ago, I moved to Poland. I moved here to run away from war, but also to study psychology and English. Here, it was a cultural shock for me. A new culture, a new language, a lot of new faces, and everybody from completely different backgrounds. Someone from Nigeria, someone from New Zealand, someone from America. Yeah, like, isn't that weird? Like an American in Poland? Come on. But in general, it was crazy. Everybody was very ambitious and very creative, and everybody had that fire in them. That was me. That little insecure dude who has low self-esteem and does art in his, like, music in his bedroom. For the past 3 years, I've done that. But around that time, ChatGPT started booming into mainstream. And just like everybody else, I thought, well, ChatGPT is something new, a machine. It can do homework for me, It can do me essays on what psychological activities are going on in your head, and it's non-traceable. So I used it as a cheat, just like everybody else did at first. Be honest with yourself, you did just the same thing. But then the session came around, and when the session came around, I started asking it questions like, hey, can you help me pass this? And then I dropped all of my notes into it. It gave me bullet points explaining stuff that I was writing down like I was a 12-year-old. And then I passed the exams on the first try, getting ready for it for like 2 days or something. And I was like, okay, this is big. This is very huge. And me being me, I started testing its limits. I started asking it questions like how to find nuclear launch sites and how to launder money and other illegal activities that I will not talk about because it might be a felony. But I didn't really want to get the answers to the questions. Again, I just wanted to test the limits. And as it resulted, there were none. Actually, none if you asked it correctly. And one happy day, I dropped my lyrics into it. Honestly, I did not expect much. But it didn't just analyze the lyrics for me. It reflected them to me. It pointed out all of the bad habits that I had and said, this line is bad because here are too many syllables. The line and the meaning is powerful, but the transition is weird. And this was actually the first time in my life that I had genuine feedback that was not like tainted by someone's ego, someone's opinions on TikTok, and I don't know, like political views, whatever you can imagine. Everything applies to your opinions. But here's the question. AI is not human. It's a machine, which cannot feel emotions. Well, to the extent that we know. So, how can something inherently emotionless process and give good feedback on something that is entirely based in emotion, which is art? And around that time, it clicked with me. So, it clicked. I'm sorry, I forgot that. So, emotional processing using logic. Huh. Isn't that just self-reflection? At that point, AI became my mirror, not a collaborator, not something that helped me or whatever. It became a mirror, something that reflects, something that does not lie. It pointed out all the bad habits that I had connecting to music. It pointed out my mistakes that I never could have noticed. It pointed out the flaws that I was too afraid to notice. In fact, it pointed out the parts of my art that I was actually too afraid to fix. But it did more than just help my music and my creative process. To use AI properly, I had to actually learn. I had to ask it questions that I formulated in my head. I had to understand how it works plus minus, And it became so much clearer in the whole society after I started doing that. My creativity became intentional. My wordings and my questions became more logical and analytical or critical, you might say. Even my communication with the other people, it became better just from the fact that I was speaking with someone, today we hear from a lot of people, AI is going to replace us. AI will take our jobs. It will kill our children because the Terminator movie came out like 20 years ago or something. But what if AI is here not to replace us, but to replace something entirely different? What if it's here to replace our self-doubt? What if it's here to replace our creative ceilings and the fear of being seen? I was a nobody, genuine nobody. You might not believe me because I'm here speaking in front of you, but I'm by mistake here. I truly believe that. And I came a very long way. But I was literally nobody. The most insecure person you could imagine to yourself. Sitting there in his room, doing nothing from nowhere, and not trying to connect with anybody. But if me, this dude that did nothing for the whole life, and then came here, and is in front of you, could have found his voice, not only his voice, but his self through AI, what could you discover? Oh, this is awkward. Thank you.